Hi everybody and welcome to another video of the Godly Concept. And I'm sure on episode 5, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's been quite a second, you know how life is, you just gotta gather some things together, get some time to, get some rest. But we are up and kicking now, so I'm very excited for today's episode and I hope that you guys are. Now today's episode is going to be a little different, that we're on the topic of healing, and as we are closing off the season, going into the latter part of the season, we will now be directing to focus topics, that have to do with different types of healing, but today's episode will be centered and focused around healing for administration. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, what is this guy talking about? So we're not going to workplace administration or whatever it is, but we are going to purpose rather, so as you know, God has given each and every single one of us a gift, right? And with these gifts, that the Lord has given us, it is imperative that we know and understand that these gifts are made to as tools rather for the Lord to minister to our generation. Now when you look at it, before God created us, there was a purpose, so let's say for example the Lord saw on the earth that there was a vacancy for a singer, or an actor, a dancer, a preacher, a minister of the gospel, and the Lord then thought of making you, yes, you, as wonderful and amazing as you are, the Lord then thought, okay, you know what, this person could really fill that gap for me, because the whole purpose of our existence is for God's kingdom to come, his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. So he's basically replicating what happens in heaven and bringing it to the earth. And that's why we have ministers of the gospel, because those are things that are there in heaven. That's why we have musicians who are singing and bringing forth music that the Lord has foreordained, and this is what we see. That's how we see God's kingdom coming, and God's kingdom being made manifest, on the earth, so that's important that we set down that foundation, so with every gift that God has given us, it is meant to minister to people in our generation, so your gift is meant to minister to someone in our generation, but who is it? What is your crowd? Things like that. And certain things, it's imperative that we know that certain things that we go through solely for those who we are going to minister to, in a sense that there are certain things that God has to take you through, and the area of your biggest struggle or the toughest thing that you've gone through generally is the area where God wants to use you most. Let's say, for example, you've had a family member that went through certain hardships, dealt with an illness or whatever it is. It may be that the Lord wants to use you in that area, either to provide financially for the people with that specific illness, to raise awareness, to get government to take these things serious. And it may be all 3 or 4, or it may be just those specific facets and aspects. So there are certain things that we really need to go through. Now, why is healing important for administration? Let's say, for example, you are going to minister to someone who is sick. Let's say, for example, God forbid, the person has cancer, right? And God is like, okay, I want you to minister to this person. You can't get there and say, hey man, Jesus is the answer, you'll be good. Like, not to say that's wrong. It's correct to lead people to Christ, but it's the way we do it. In a sense that if I'm telling someone Jesus is the answer and they're suffering and going through something, there must be a level of understanding that you have, sympathy, that empathy, to be like, yo, you're going through this, but God will make a way, this is the story that I have, and this is how God overcame, and we need to be able to apply wisdom, to the level of administration, and that's why it's so important that things that you've gone through, yes, a lot of them may not be God's will, because God's will is never to inflict pain or harm on us, so it is that God then uses those things to allow us to be now a key of administration to other people, so that they can be able to best understand him and hear his voice and know who he is. So it is important that we heal within those areas, so that even when we are ministering, we don't minister bitterness and hurt, because you can imagine ministering to someone that needs to hear how you overcame your situation, and you administer from a better perspective or anything like that, it affects the way they view the whole situation completely, especially now that they're looking at someone who's ministering to them from a perspective of having long gone through that day, so this is why then the Lord encourages us to heal, and he's such a good God, because he doesn't just say, hey, heal, he comes, steps in, helps you to heal, he walks the journey with you, and he goes through these things with you to be able to help you to best heal from everything that you're going through, So that is the reason why it is so imperative for us to heal, for administration, and our whole life basically is based on the administration of the grace that's been given unto us. Everything that you've gone through in your life will help someone, and it's important that we don't look down on ourselves, that, okay, this one went through something that's like 10 times worse than me, so how am I going to administer this? God wants to use you just as you are, with every single thing that you've gone through. And some have even deeper and more painful stories. But I promise you that at the end of that element of healing, you will minister such great wisdom to other people, and it will help people. Imagine how amazing it would be if a healed version of you steps up to someone, and maybe you went through something for a year or so, or 6 months or 7 months, you went through something just hard or tough, but you can help that person close off or conclude that season in about a week, maybe even a month or so, compared to the 7 to 10 months. And that's what it's about, that God looks so much at everybody else. And that's why some things he allows us to go through, and these are things, that we really need to look deep into, but that is all we have, for today. Please continue praying and trusting God with us, for guests, on the show, to be able to, engage in conversation, get different perspectives, understand how people are dealing with healing, how people are understanding healing, and how people perceive and view healing. These are important concepts. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I absolutely love and appreciate you guys. And as we usually say, I will see you in the next episode.